Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris and this is the Locator Lounge. Today we've got a pretty unique project. You can see I've got I got a wheel here on the bench. The brand on this wheel is US Wheel. A pretty standard steel wheel, very commonly used on like American rat rods and things like that. And I thought that this wheel style fit really well for the period of the 1966 Stout. The reason that I've got them out here on the bench is the hubcaps, or this style of hubcap is called a dog dish. This style of hubcap that I've got, I'm going to be running on here like this. The problem is, there's no way to attach it. Back in the olden days of how these were attached, there would be some tabs welded to the wheel, and since this is an aftermarket wheel, you know, it didn't have that. So I was able to find some clips. Ordinarily these get welded to the ordinarily these get bolted to the wheel, but I thought about it. I was like, I've got a welder, why don't I just weld them? To me, this will be easier rather than trying to center holes and drill them and everything else. I was like, I'll just weld them on.
Now, as I was saying before, if I just tried to bolt these in, that angle's totally wrong. That's not going to work. So what I did was I took the end, straightened it out. So I'm going to be welding this in here like that. But the second problem that I ran into is this can't be too tall because the dog dish is a pretty shallow, it's like a low profile. So I've got to shave some of this off and then reshape this so that it fits. So the first and most important thing is going to be centering where I weld these on the wheel. And what I did was I just grabbed a piece of wood here, and you can see I've got stencil marks for the lug nuts and everything. So we're going to take this, set it on top, and get it lined back up. Again, this is my template. So the first time I did this, I just bolted it on, or I just set it on top. And then I traced out the lines. And once I got everything traced out, I actually marked the center. So you can kind of see this here. So these crosses and everything were how I found the exact center. So now that I've got this lined up on my little stencil, and I'm still just tweaking it just a little bit because you want these as centered as you can get, because if the hubcap's not centered, as you're driving down the road, it'll just look like it's wobbling. So, and then we're going to use a little tool like this, which has a piece of lead in the end of it. Place that in the center and just trace this out. So all we're doing is putting a faint line so that we know where the clips need to be located in order to grab the hubcap or grab the dog dish. That's it. So you guys can, it's really hard to see, but there's a really faint pencil line here, and that's going to be our mark. So let's go ahead and get this off so that this isn't all wobbly. So with these clips, ordinarily you would just bolt this in place, right? Ordinarily that's what you would do. Unfortunately, because of the shape of these wheels, bolting this in where I need it to be wasn't really an option. So I've had to modify them pretty extensively, but they're still working. So that's kind of the important part here. To talk a little bit about these dog dishes that I'm using. These were actually, as far as my research shows, so this is the old TEQ logo. And from my research, these hubcaps were only offered on like a 1970s Toyota Corona in like Panama or something. It's some, you know, Central America, South American country that offered these, and I was able to find these on eBay. So Peru, actually, I think they were from Peru. I really can't remember. But a very unique dish. I believe I've only seen one other guy running these. But this is the style. This is the look that I'm going for. And yeah, let's go ahead and go through the process here. So the first thing that we got to do, since we're welding these, is we've got to get this paint off. Super simple, just a grinding wheel. And then the next thing, this tab, this is too long. I got to take some of this off. So just take a cutoff disc and get a piece of that off. And there we go. So we've got these trimmed. Now I've got to take some pliers and reshape them. All right, and public safety announcement, guys. Anytime you're using power tools, grinding, things like that, come on, do the right thing. Have some eye protection on, ear protection as well. Those tools are loud and they will wreck your hearing. All right, so now to shape them, because this is going to be welded around right there. I like to give them just a little bit of a curve here. Nothing crazy. Just a little bit to help out. And then I have figured out that this bend I gave them is a little too aggressive. So we're going to take some of that back out. All right, and that should be about it. So we went from this to this, and that should get the job done. All right, and as you're doing a project like this, guys, keep test fitting. So I'm bending this and trying to shape it. And so, again, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a faint line right here. And so I need this clip to be just past that. So I just keep bending it and shaping it until I get it where it's going to lock in on that hubcap. And now, of course, since we're welding, I've got to sand some of this powder coat off in order to weld. And of course, in order to weld, you need a good spot for a ground. I didn't want to sand the outer lip. This is the inner lip. I'm just going to sand a small spot here for us to be able to put a ground clip. And that's it, guys. We're ready to weld. These are not pretty by any stretch of the imagination, but they are under a hubcap, so I don't need them to be pretty. I just need them to be strong and hold on. So here we are, guys. End result. You're gonna hear a nice snap. That is not coming off. Honestly, that's probably on a little tighter than I'd like it to be. But that's it. And then getting them out. Obviously, you wouldn't be pushing them from the inside, but push right off. We'll pop this back on again. There we go. We've got the tires mounted on the wheels. So let's go ahead and get these things on the truck. We're going to give these a couple ugga-duggas, and then we will torque them to spec when it's on the ground. And the final piece to these wheels. So there are the new wheels, guys. This was a much longer project than I originally anticipated. You know, figuring out how to attach these dog dishes to the wheels was a little bit of a headache. Turns out that there's probably a better clip option than the one that I used. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and drop the ones that I used in the comments, which required a lot of fabrication, but I'm gonna see if I can hunt down the link to the other ones that I think would have actually been a lot easier to use. I will actually probably get those if I ever have an issue with these. Awesome set of wheels. I think this is a much better period correct look for Henry. The wheels that I had on the truck, those were just rollers. Those were so that I could eliminate vibration issues from tires and know that the suspension and stuff was in decent shape anyway. Now the question I have for you guys, should I keep these black or should I plasti dip them or paint them? My plan right now is to plasti dip these Nardo gray. There's a gray accent here in the badging. So I was thinking that I could tie that in together and that the Nardo gray would look good. So let me know what you guys think. Drop it down in the comments. Should I stick with black or should I do a video where I plasti dip these things Nardo gray? I know a lot of you guys want to see this guy driving, so let's go ahead and take him for a spin and we'll see you guys next time.